My name is Monica Goodall and I'm a retirement specialist at Scottish Widows. And here at Scottish Widows, we're keen to help you really understand the benefits of saving for retirement. But we also recognise that for many, pensions can seem both confusing and complex, but it doesn't have to be that way. And actually, they can be relatively straightforward. In simple terms, a pension is a long-term, tax-efficient savings plan that provides you with a pot of money which you can use to help fund your lifestyle when you reach retirement age. You can usually access your pension pot from the age of 55, although this will increase to 57 from 2028. If you're employed, you'll usually be eligible for a workplace pension, and this is the easiest way to get started. You'll be automatically enrolled if you're 22 or over and earning £10,000 or over in any one job. So how does it work? You'll normally make payments into your pension each month from your salary, and these payments usually are topped up by tax relief from the government. Your employer also pays in a set amount each month too. These payments are then invested to help build up the value of your pension pot. Therefore, the earlier you start saving into your pension, the longer it has to potentially grow in value. Remember though that as with any investment, there is the risk that the value of the investment can go down as well as up, and that you could get back less than invested. If you're self-employed, it can be a bit more difficult to make up for a break in work, so it's worth saving a bit more when you can to cover any difficult periods. You could also look at various types of insurance to help cover you if you're off work ill, which can help provide you with an income should you need it. Retirement may seem a long way off, but it's really important to think about what you'd like to do when you stop working to make sure you have enough saved for the retirement you want. You should think about what you'll need to live on and how you'll enjoy your free time to help you put a plan in place. A huge benefit of a workplace pension is that your employer also pays in, and if you pay more into your pension, your employer may increase what they put in too, so you should consider if you can afford to make changes to benefit from higher contributions from your employer. You may also receive your state pension from the government, and in this current tax year it's £179.60 per week, which equates to just over £9,000 per year. You can get a state pension forecast on the government website. But remember, you won't get this until your late 60s, and there is no guarantee what the value will be in the future. So it's important to have a plan in place and your own pension savings as well to support you in the future. As I said, you can currently access your pension savings from age 55, and when you're ready to do so, there are now various options available to you. You can leave your money invested and take some out when you need it. That's a flexible income option, often known as drawdown. You can buy an annuity, that's a guaranteed income for life, or you can take it all as one cash lump sum, or in several chunks. You can even combine these options to make your pension savings easier to manage when you do decide to access them. It's important to remember there are pros and cons to consider before you decide how you will access your pension savings when the time comes. So now let's have a look at some other key features of a pension and some key things to be aware of. Something we don't like to think about, but is really important to understand, is what happens when we die. If you're under the age of 75 and haven't started taking your benefits yet, your pension savings would usually be paid to your wife, husband, registered civil partner, or other beneficiaries, and paid out as a tax-free lump sum. But if you die at age 75 or over before taking any of your pension benefits, the tax rules change and your pension can be paid to your beneficiaries, but the proceeds will be taxed at your beneficiary's rate of tax. To make sure your pension provider takes your wishes into account, make sure you have nominated your beneficiaries and that you keep these up to date, as we know your circumstances change. You can usually nominate your beneficiaries through your pension provider, either online or over the phone. People today will likely have many employers throughout their career, which means you'll likely build up a number of different pension pots throughout your working life. If you leave your current employer, your workplace pension will remain invested with your pension provider. You may be able to continue to make further personal contributions to your pension, or you can transfer your pension pot to your new employer's workplace pension. Also, if you have pension pots which you've built up from previous employers, it's worth thinking about combining them into your new pension. It could save you money and help make planning for the future you want easier. but it's not right for everyone. So make sure you read through the key things to consider before starting the transfer process. You can find all the important information on our transfers website. It's worth thinking about how time away from work could affect your pension contributions. Your employer may continue contributing to your workplace pension, however the contributions are based on your salary. So if your salary reduces during any time away from work, including any time off due to illness, then so will payments into your pension savings. An exception to this is during a period of paid parental leave, when your employer must maintain their contributions. You should speak to your employer to see how it works for you. If you work part-time or reduce your hours to part-time, your earnings are likely to be lower, and this will reduce both your and your employer's contributions, which in turn could mean less money to enjoy in retirement. If you receive a bonus, pay increase, or have spare cash left over each month, you could top up your payments without having to make financial sacrifices elsewhere. Putting in even 2% more in your 20s could help mitigate future career breaks or reduced hours. I've provided you with lots of information here today. So if you'd like to find out more about your pension, the pension basics, investments and your retirement options, I'd recommend you visit our website. You'll find lots of useful tools and information there to support you through your retirement journey. If you're looking for tailored advice specific to your situation, you should contact a financial advisor, and they will usually charge for any advice given. You can find a financial advisor near you on the Unbiased website. Another option is to use the government's free guidance through Money Helper, or if you're over 50, PensionWise can give you the guidance you need to make the most of your pension options. I'm now going to be joined by my colleagues Martin and Robert to get their views and top tips for someone who's been saving for retirement. And with me today, I've got a list of questions. Now, these are questions that we are asked quite a lot from our members at Scottish Widows, so Martin and Robert are going to help me answer these. So the first question I would like to ask you is, how do I know if I am saving enough?
It's a really good question, and I think there's a variety of different tools that you can use on the Scottish Widows website, but I think the key one is really the Meet Your Future Self tool. When you're using the Meet Your Future Self tool, you can actually input a lot of information about what you're currently saving, what you might have previously saved, and that can really help you to understand that when you come to retirement, are you going to have enough money for that outcome, that lifestyle that you really want to have when it gets to that stage of your life.
So another question that we've got here is, how are pensions invested?
Well, pensions are invested typically in a number of different funds. Particularly at Scottish Widows, we have a wide range of different funds available. However, we also have what's known as lifestyle products, which basically means Scottish Widows can actually manage that pension investment from the start to the end of your career. We can also tailor that to when you wish to retire. You can put that information in, you can help us to really understand your journey as well. There are a number of different choices, again, depending on what different products, again, providers you might have elsewhere as well, but definitely a range of different investment funds available.
Yeah, I guess it's important for people to realise that if they're in an auto-enrolment scheme, then they will have been put in a default fund, and most of these default funds have some element of lifestyling in it. And what that tends to mean is that when you're younger, you're taking a bit more risk because you can't access the money. It's going to be invested for quite some time. And as you get closer to retirement, that risk is taken off the table because you're getting to a stage where you might want to actually access your benefits. So people can feel reassured that that's happening on their behalf. But if they want it, as Martin says, if they want to get involved and make investment choices, then they have that freedom as well.
Fantastic. And another question that we've got here is, some people might have some student debt that they're thinking of paying off. They might be saving up to buy their first property, buy a house, and they might even be considering planning a family. So thinking about a new exciting time in your life, such as having a baby. Should you still be prioritising saving into a pension if that's the case?
It's really difficult, isn't it? So you've got all those life events going on, you've got one pot of money and you're trying to fund all those different things. So I guess my rule of thumb there would be, yes, you need to be able to afford to do all those other things as well, but you are most likely to live into later life, and you're going to need to be able to fund that. So how do you try and work out what to do? Well, maybe when you've got a bit more free money, you might want to pay in pension contributions that are above the minimum. But when you get to those points where you're maybe having to fund a family, and that's quite expensive, you might want to drop down to the minimum. But when we think about the minimum, what do you actually want to do there? Well, you want to maximise your employer contribution. So drop down so that you're getting the full pension contribution from the employer, and you're doing that in a way that still leaves you money left over. Because the important thing that we saw through the pandemic was having emergency funding, so a pot of money just in case you find yourself out of work or you find yourself with short-term bills to pay for. So we know that people need to manage emergency funding, they need to manage long-term saving, and there's managing all that life stuff in the middle.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for those top tips there. And you did mention about the minimum for saving. Have you got any guidance on how much you should be thinking about contributing as a minimum to your pension?
Well, of course, making the most of your employer's contribution, as Robert has very rightly mentioned, is key. It's really, best place to pay in as much as you can afford now. What's recommended though, and of course over the years Scottish Widows has provided various retirement reports, and we can recommend that everyone tries to save about 12% into their pension plan. Now that's of course a contribution from yourself and from your employer, so it doesn't have to be 12% from your own pocket, but absolutely whatever you can pay in is fantastic. Try to maximise your employer's contribution, but we recommend at least 12%.
Fantastic, thank you, Martin. And of course you get the tax relief from the government included in that as well. So that leads us nicely on to the next question actually. So when should you start saving for retirement, and is there any benefits to saving early?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So one of my favourite questions. So the best day to start saving for your pension, if you haven't started already, is today. So start right away as soon as you can. And in terms of when should young people think about it? Well, I always talk about your 20s as being the golden age of pension savings, and people tend to think golden age as being when you're older, but in actual fact the golden age for pension savings is in your 20s, because that, if you save in your 20s, your funds will grow for a longer period of time. So you'll be getting pension contributions going in, and you'll be getting investment growth on those contributions for the longest period of time. And let me give you an example. We've got something on the Scottish Widows website called the cost of delay calculator. And that's really, even the name is making you think, cost of delay, I should do this as early as I can. So if you start contributing at 25, so let's say someone at 25, if they start at 25, their fund would be 29% bigger than if they started at 30 on the same contribution amount. It would be 69% bigger than if they started at 35. So that's a golden decade right there, right in your 20s. So yeah, it's definitely worth paying into your pension as early as you possibly can.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Wow, that's some staggering stats there, isn't it, from Robert, with the cost of delay calculator. A lot to think about there. So definitely the recommendation is to start saving as early as possible, or today, as Robert said, if you haven't already started. So let's have a look and see if we do have any more questions. So another one. So someone thinks that they might have pensions elsewhere, they're not sure. Is there any way that they can trace these?
The short answer is yes, but just to explain that a little bit more, the government actually have what's known as a pension tracing service. So essentially, if you saved up a workplace pension from previous employment, no matter which provider that's with, or even if the provider has changed names or changed hands, you can still track down previous workplace pensions. Now, the website is gov.uk/find lost pensions, so it's quite easy to remember, and that will really help you to understand where your previous pensions are, and indeed you can then potentially think about combining your pensions as well, if that's something you're interested in.
Thank you. That's a fantastic point. And another question that we've got here is all about combining pension pots, so transferring pensions. So do we have any further information or guidance about where people can go to look into transferring pensions, and things they might consider when thinking about it?
Absolutely, we really do have an awful lot of information on the Scottish Widows transfer website. That's a really useful place to go if you're thinking about combining or transferring your pensions together, so a great place to start.
Yeah, and I'd just like to stress just how straightforward it is. It's a really straightforward process. It's fully online, and once you complete that process, a provider like Scottish Widows behind the scenes will then go and chase down all your paperwork for you. So your requirement is really just to go through that digital process.
That's fantastic. Well, that sounds very simple, and as Martin referenced there, you can have a little look on our website as a good place to start. We've actually got a question here as well about sustainable investments. So do we have any further details or information on that one, Robert?
Yeah, that's a real hot topic right now. So in the same way that people have been interested in investment performance, they're now, particularly young people actually, becoming more interested in what their funds are doing from an ESG point. So what's the impact that their funds are having? And we're seeing the development of a whole host of new tools and reports all around how your investments are performing. Scottish Widows have a net zero commitment, and that applies to your investment funds as well. So it's not just about us as an organisation, it's about what happens to your pension fund. So yeah, it's really a hot topic right now, and watch this space for a whole load of new information coming on that.
Fantastic, Robert. Well, that sounds very exciting. But that kind of takes us to the end of the questions that we've got today. So I'll just wrap up there, and I'd just like to thank my guest, Robert, and also I'd like to thank Martin for joining me today, and I really do hope that you found that useful.